Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Susan's Life with ALS. I am Susan and I have ALS. Today I'd like to talk about my implanted port that I have in my chest, and I have that for a medication that I'm taking that I'll talk about here in a minute, but a little bit about the port. It's a barred power port, and it's about, let's see, probably about, well, let's see, I'll do it this way, maybe that big, and it is shaped in a kind of a triangle with rounded edges. In the middle, there's what's called the septum, and that's the part that the trained professional nurse she pokes through into that, and then that is the access to the port. And so then what I have hanging out of my chest then is the butterfly part of the needle. You grasp the butterfly wings and that's what you hold on to put it in. So the butterfly is here. Then just a little apparatus that sits against my skin, just so the butterfly part kind of isn't rubbing on my skin. That part is covered by, it can be Tegaderm. I'm using a product called IV3000, and that's for people that have a sensitivity to adhesive, and I do. So then hooked to that is a tubing, and that's called the catheter. And then at the bottom part, I take this green, it screws on and off, it's a little cap, and then that's where I hook my then IV tubing to that. Okay, so the port itself, talked about the septum. It does have palpitation points on it, little nubs, so that when it needs to be accessed, there are some landmarks that you can feel for, so that you can poke the needle into the right place. Now the septum part that you poke into is covered with a rubber that is self-healing, and supposedly this port will last anywhere from 2 to 6 years before you would need to have it changed, so it can be in there for quite some time. Through this port, I do IV meds, and then if I need to have a blood draw, I can get my blood drawn through this as well. And let's see, okay, so inside the body, the port itself is implanted into my chest, sewn down with some sutures so it doesn't migrate, and then the tube on the inside goes into the superior vena cava, and then from this superior vena cava, then the medication would go through there and go through my heart and then around my body. So the medication that I'm on is Radicava, and it comes in a box like this, and it's 10 days a month. You do 10 days out of 14 days every month. So I do have a couple weeks in every month that this port does not have to be accessed. Thank goodness. So you can't get this port wet. I know I've mentioned on my channel before that I do really love swimming at the YMCA, so I can't do that while the port is accessed. Showering is a little bit of a challenge because you really can't get it wet. So a little bit of lifestyle modification, and it will stay uninfected and in working order for me every month. So when it gets placed, just me personally, it doesn't really hurt. I'm more of an emotional kind of wreck the day I get it placed. And I think it's because I know how much I have to give up and how my life gets in kind of a hassle when it's accessed, and I have to give things up, and it's hard. I am planning on doing the Radicava for a year and then reassess if I'm going to keep doing it, and if I don't, then I would get the port removed. So I'll kind of go through my setup here real quick. So showed you the box of Radicava, but here is the IV bag, and here's one of them that I'll be using today. So what I do is take this end and I would spike the bag and hang it up on my IV pole. Then I would do what's called priming the tubing, just to make sure that the medication is all the way through the tubing before I hook this end to me. It's very easy. Okay, then on the tubing, on the long tubing itself is a stopper, and you work that by a roller ball. And then in order to control the drips that you're getting hooked onto this tubing as well is what's called a dial-a-flow, and you can set it to how many drips per minute that you want, or per hour, I forget. Yeah, I think it's, I don't remember, but anyway, I do set it to 250. Okay, so then before I even hook myself up to it, I have, on my previous infusion, the last thing I put through my tubing was some heparin, and that's this little guy, and that's 5 milliliters. A special kind of heparin that goes in these ports. Now, so today when I hook myself up, I'll want to push that heparin through and make a space of saline for the medication to go in, and that's what this is. And that's 10 milliliters, and that's really easy. You just screw that on there. Then I'll go through and do my 2 bags of IV fluid. Then I will do another saline at the end after I've unhooked myself to clear the tubing of the medication. Then I would do my heparin, so that, and what the heparin does is keep the tube from getting clotted up with blood and keeps it free flowing. Of course I'm using, did I bring alcohol swabs up here? Let's see. Yeah, here's some. So between each step I would use alcohol swabs. My nurse friends know these very well. And of course, lots of hand washing, lots of hand sanitizer, and gloves. So then that will keep this port free from infection. And it's very easy. You kind of get yourself into a routine when you do this. And even though I am a registered nurse, so this stuff is familiar to me, even a lay person could do it, or a family member. It's not difficult. Just follow the instructions, make sure you stay really clean between each step, and you'll do fine. So that's everything about my barred power port. And if you have any questions, just leave me questions down below and I'm happy to answer them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.